Hey there. Welcome to episode 33 of the Boob Report podcast, powered by Helix Interactive. Today, I'm hanging out with Morgan Adams, a two-time breast cancer survivor and sleep coach. Yeah, I said sleep coach, and I am really looking forward to this. Let's get started. Okay, everybody, we are here with Morgan Adams, and I'm very excited about this episode because we are going to be talking about stuff that's very important, and we all need to really sit back and listen to move forward with this. So, Morgan, thank you for
Thank
joining us.
you. Thanks. Nice
Hey.
to be here.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into doing what you do.
Well, I am a two-time breast cancer survivor. I was first diagnosed with breast cancer in November of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular diagnosis was invasive ductal carcinoma, stage 1, and estrogen receptor positive. And after being given my options for either mastectomy and tamoxifen or lumpectomy and radiation, I didn't like either of those options. None of them seemed appealing to me. So I stewed about it for a long time and ultimately decided to make the decision to go a different route. So what I ended up doing was going to a center in Cancun, Mexico called Hope for Cancer, where I stayed for 3 weeks. And in that 3-week period, it was 6 days a week of intensive treatments, for probably 5 hours a day. So things like vitamin C infusions and IVs, coffee enemas, like there was a whole gamut of protocols. And so I was there for 3 weeks and I came back home. They set me up on a home protocol. And I followed that for a couple months, 3 months actually, went back to the center and had tests done again. And I was a little disappointed because the tumor had not shrunk.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I thought the tumor was supposed to shrink, but I guess that's not what is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
My markers were better. My blood markers were better, but that tumor was still there. So I went back home and for the next several months monitored that tumor via ultrasound, and it just wasn't budging. So come, I guess it was September of 2019, I decided to get a lumpectomy because I just, the tumor could have just done nothing. It could have stayed there the rest of my life, or it could have spread. I just really wasn't sure what it would do, but I wasn't really willing to take the chance. So I got that lumpectomy, and that came out fine, except for the fact that they found a DCIS tumor right up against the original tumor. So my surgeon wanted me to get a second lumpectomy. And I thought about that. I wasn't quite sure I wanted to go in again for another surgery, but ultimately I decided to just get that done. And that was in December of 2019. And so that was a successful surgery. They got the DCIS out. So that's kind of I don't know how much farther you want me to go. That's my first cancer story. There's one to follow.
Yeah.
Do you want me to pause here, take a breath, or you want to ask some questions about that one?
Everything that happened rather quickly, and just getting that diagnosis and then going in and saying, okay, yeah, I'll do the lumpectomy, and then your surgeon saying, oh, guess what, we need to do a second lumpectomy. Yeah. That must have just been a whirlwind of emotions. And are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt, in more colorful language.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I say, it's funny. I say WTF a lot. I heard it on TV the other day. Someone said whiskey, tango, foxtrot, instead of, which is pretty funny because my husband's a pilot. So that's pilot lingo, which I love that. But yeah, I can't. So how long after that initial first breast cancer did they tell you were quote unquote cancer free after that second lumpectomy? Or
yeah, after that I was totally clean and free, and I had made a lot of major lifestyle changes after that diagnosis in 2018, really cleaned up my lifestyle. And I had gotten to the point where, I was on a really good pattern with my health practices. And I thought, quite honestly, that was the end of cancer forever. Like I really was never that person who, I mean, I know this is quite common in the breast cancer community. A lot of women who have the initial diagnosis fear a re-diagnosis, right? And I won't say I completely had no fear of it, but I really didn't give it much thought, only because I felt like I had kind of quote fixed what was broken and cleaned up my act. And I thought, I'm smooth sailing. This was a major wake up call for me to start paying attention to my health on a deeper level. And so I really, the subsequent diagnosis over in 2021, the end of the summer of 2021, that was a total shock. And I can, if you want me to, I can kind of go into the backstory of how that was found. So last July, I had planned to get a surgery to have my breast implants removed. They had been in me for close to 18 years, and it was time for them to come out. I had decided to go ahead and just get a lift and not have them replaced. And one of the prerequisites to that surgery was they wanted me to have a mammogram. And I was initially very resistant to having the mammogram, only because the mammogram missed my first cancer in 2018. But I decided to go ahead with the mammogram, just better safe than sorry. Again, not thinking anything was wrong, but just kind of going along with checking all the boxes. So I had that mammogram, I guess it was like July or August, maybe September of 2021. I mean, a couple weeks before the explant surgery. And the radiologist had a very concerned look on his face. And he said, I think that what I'm seeing here from this image is DCIS. There's a lot of, the way he described the readout was just like a lot of white, kind of like branchy, a look to it. And it just presented very much like DCIS. And kind of lost it, right? I kind of lost it because I was like, are you, effing kidding me? Really? I've done, I was like, I've done so much work to prevent this from coming back. I'm like dumbfounded. So kind of, I got the final diagnosis, that it was DCIS. On the opposite breast is the first diagnosis.
Oh.
Yeah. So then I went back to the surgeon and discussed treatment options. And what they recommended was either a mastectomy or lumpectomy and radiation.
Okay.
And I really, that decision was not very hard to make, to be honest with you, because the way I looked at it is, if I chose the lumpectomy and radiation, could I potentially be playing like a game of whack-a-mole every few years, wondering which breast is the lump going to show up in, so I decided for the double mastectomy. It was a pretty easy choice for me. However, the hard part about it was, what am I going to do as far as reconstruction? That was like the main source of anxiety and worry for me, because I, like many women, I did not want to, have no breast tissue. So the thought of the reconstruction with implants was appealing. However, as I thought more and more about it, I thought, this is not logical. You were originally going to have your implants removed, and now you're thinking about putting implants in again. This just doesn't seem to align, with what your ultimate goal is.
Right.
So I took that out of the equation. And then the other option that I pursued or looked into just as a, research was the deep flap.
Yeah.
And I didn't have enough tissue for that. And then I looked at fat transfer. Again, that would have taken probably 3 different surgeries, traveling back and forth to Miami to actually get some semblance of a breast, like a very small breast. And it just seemed like more hassle than it was worth.
Right.
So I ended up deciding on just being flat and having what they call an aesthetic flat closure.
Mhm.
And that surgery went very, very smoothly. That was actually in November of 2021. I had no complications from that. I bounced back really quickly, and I'm cancer free now. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy with that choice.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was fortunate in that my surgeon supported that choice and presented that as an option in a very open way. I've come to understand through doing some other similar interviews as we're doing now, is that a lot of surgeons don't really even present that option of
Mhm.
a flat closure. And so women, tend to be sort of corralled into the option of getting the implants, which is totally fine. It's a personal decision, but I feel that the options should be presented, in full, and the pros and cons of each.
Oh
So,
yeah, absolutely. I
um,
totally agree with you. I
yeah,
think it's super important. That wasn't even an option that was given to me.
yeah,
To be full transparency, that
uh-huh.
was not an option that I was given. But I
Mhm.
do find it interesting with the deep, procedure, and then the fat transfer and stuff. I thought about that as well, and I thought, oh, good, they can take some from my tummy. And I was told the same thing. Yeah, you don't have enough for half a boob. You would have to
Yeah,
put on 25, 30 pounds. And I'm like, well, that's unhealthy. I'm just coming
right.
out of having breast cancer. Then you want me to put on weight so then you can take it off. So yeah, to me, that just seemed like a sort of a crazy little merry-go-round to be on. So I opted for
Yeah,
the implants.
yeah,
So
yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
A lot more smooth sailing with that.
yeah,
Less pain.
absolutely. Cause I mean, it's several surgeries to get either the deep or the fat
Yeah,
transfer.
yeah, yeah,
Again, like you said, it's a personal choice. Whoever chooses to do that, more power to you, love and support. But for me, the first time I was ever in a hospital or ever had surgery was to have my boobs removed. And I was
wow.
49 years old. So I was like, the thought of going through multiple surgeries, no, thank you.
Yeah. And I came to find out doing the research for the deep flap is that sometimes it doesn't even take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it could essentially be an unsuccessful surgery, which,
Hmm.
I mean, imagine how disappointed you would be if you put all that time and effort into a surgery and it failed. Like,
Right.
that's, at least with an implant, you have a pretty sure bet that it's going to work. I mean, there's always a complication risk, but so much less than the deep flap. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know of a woman that had the deep flap and she had major complications from it. She was in ICU and was going through sepsis from it. Not to
wow,
scare anybody, but like you said, there's complications with any surgery. You
of
can go in and
course.
have an ingrown toenail removed, and there's complications with that. So, it's just something that can happen at any time. You have to be aware of the risks. But
Yeah.
so cancer free after, holy cow, the second.
Yeah. The second time.
Good Lord. So,
Yes.
moving forward from that, how have you, moved on with your life and maintaining that healthy lifestyle that you were living prior to the first diagnosis?
Yeah. Well, it's really, I haven't really done anything too drastically different.
Hmm.
I've just been really mainly focusing on strength training in the past several months. I mean, I've been exercising for a long time, but I'm really honing in on strength training. My diet is pretty solid. I'm still working on decreasing my alcohol intake. So
Yeah.
it's these gradual things that I'm doing over time that I think are, preventing another, diagnosis, and just upgrading my health and making me feel really pretty damn awesome, to be
Yeah.
honest. I'm feeling really good.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
great.
feel lucky.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I'm 5.5 years out, and I go once a year now to see my oncologist. And I'm curious with your oncologist, they told me that they've changed it from 5 years to 10 years. So they still want you coming once a year until you hit that 10th year. And then they sort of release you from there. Did your oncologist mention anything about that?
to be honest, I did not have an oncologist because
Huh?
I just had a surgeon
Uh-huh.
because I didn't pursue any kind of radiation or chemo.
Yeah.
So because of that, that like eliminated me from being with an oncologist. Yeah.
That is
So
interesting because I didn't have radiation or chemo either, but
yeah,
my nurse navigator set me up with an oncologist, and
yeah,
that's who I go see once a
yeah.
year. So,
That was never like offered. And I'm cool with it. I
yeah.
feel like I'm definitely like into keeping up with my blood work. I mean, I'm very proactive about those things. And
Uh-huh.
there's certain blood markers that I'm looking for with my practitioner that are, sort of indicative of things that are inflammatory. And
Right.
I'm really trying to stay on top of it. But I don't really, for me personally, I don't think the oncology route is gonna, check the box for me. But
Right.
I mean, I think whatever follow up, I mean, you should do whatever follow up you can do. Like there
Yeah,
needs to be something,
absolutely.
that can take place in different ways, shapes, and forms. So
Oh yeah. I mean, you're seeing your general practitioner and you guys
yeah,
know what you're looking for. They have your health history, which I think
yeah,
is very important. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm all about an integrative approach. I mean, my oncologist, they had me on tamoxifen. I literally took it for 3 weeks and I was like, I can't take it anymore. It made me dizzy. It made me disoriented, nauseous all the time, which is not typical side effects of tamoxifen. So, a lot of doctors would be like, oh, well, that's in your head or something else is happening, and would have encouraged me to keep taking it. My oncologist said, all right, well, if it's not agreeing with you, that's fine. You don't have to take it. But then I just need to see you more often for right
Mm,
now until
mhm.
we can get a baseline going of what's happening. And anything that I took to him that my husband and I read about an article or we found something online, I would take it to him and show it to him, and he would show me the pros and cons. So he was very open, thank goodness, to
Yeah,
listening to me and letting me bring ideas for my, recovery process going forward to him, which I was very grateful for.
yeah. I love that. It's a two-way street.
Mhm.
It's not just doctor tells you what to do and you do it. I mean, I feel very strongly we need to be active participants in our care, and feel free to, push back a little bit if we don't like the medication we're taking or the recommendations they're making. I think that we definitely need to speak up and use our voice for sure.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the reasons that I do this, is because I want women to feel empowered with knowledge and, learn from the experiences that they hear about on the podcast or, just looking at our website, to feel more empowered to, say, you and I are a team to their doctors, so that, I'm bringing something to the table as well. So we need to be able to have an open communication going
Yes.
with that. So how are you doing now? I mean, everything, you look fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, everything's going really well. Like I mentioned, I'm very into fitness and exercise. And
Mhm.
after the surgery, I lost some upper body strength, but I'm really, I'd say, because I've pushed myself a little bit in the past month, I think I'm stronger now than I was before the surgery.
Wow,
Because
that's great.
I just pushed through it. Now, I was not pushing through irresponsibly. I didn't have pain, but it was just a matter of building back up the strength,
Right.
and challenging myself to lift a little bit more. So yeah, I feel kind of better than I did before the surgery.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually have I belong to some Facebook groups, and that was one thing that just resonates with me. That was one thing that a woman was asking, is that she was really into weight training. She wasn't trying to win Miss Universe or anything like that in the weight training world, but she really enjoyed it. She enjoyed, the power, the upper body strength and everything. And she was terrified after her bilateral mastectomy to get back into the gym, and she was very open sharing that. And I found that, pretty amazing and very telling on some of the different fears that women go through after they've had surgery like that.
Yeah. Well, I will share that after I had the surgery and I wasn't able to lift as much, my upper body looked smaller, like my arms looked less. I mean, they still looked somewhat toned, but there was just not as much, muscle mass, that was easily seen.
Right.
And at first I was like, hey, I kind of like the way this looks because I have no chest, breast tissue at all. So I actually look kind of more in proportion, without having, bigger muscles. And then about 2 months ago, I kind of had this realization. I was like, I don't even care. I don't care if I'm in proportion or not. I really want to be strong. Like I really want to just keep being stronger and stronger. And I mean, most women, like almost all women, are not going to reach the point where they're just like completely a Hulk, without some kind of outside intervention. So I'm not going to be like, She-Ra.
Yeah.
but I kind of just had this mind shift, like, you want to be strong. Like, let your body do what it's going to do and not worry about like your proportion. It just seemed like it was kind of irrelevant. So I had that was kind of an interesting mind shift for me.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think that a lot of women, myself included, have sort of adjusted my expectations, as far as how my body was healing. I did have to have my implants replaced after 3 years. So it'll be 2 years this July. We're in 2022 that I had the implants replaced. And I'm so glad that I did, because now I don't have that constant pain from the previous implants, and I'm able to do more. Started playing volleyball again, which I missed so much, and I'm thoroughly enjoying that. But I'm with you. I like to work out. I like to be physically active, and getting over that initial fear and getting back into it was something that I had to work on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and these groups that I belong to, these different groups, it's fascinating to listen to other women's stories and what they've done and how they've moved forward, getting over that fear and wanting to get back to, I don't want to say the normal way it was, but just finding their new normal of how they're
Right.
going to work out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So did it affect, I've started asking people this because a lot of women that I've interviewed, they either worked in the corporate world or they had their own business. How did your two diagnoses, how did that affect your work life, if you will?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I think that the first diagnosis kind of changed what I did for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Before the first diagnosis, I was a consultant with a skincare and wellness company.
Okay.
I will not name their name, but basically the long and the short of it is, after the first diagnosis, I really went through a phase where, I mean, I'm still in the phase, but I cleaned up all the product ingredients. I like went through all the ingredients and determined a lot of them were hormone disruptors. So unfortunately, the company that I had been partnered with before the breast cancer had those ingredients, and I had to say sayonara to that company.
Yeah.
So I joined a company. It's a clean beauty brand called Beauty Counter, and I've been with that company for a few years. But about a year and a half ago, I decided that I really, with all of this health stuff happening to me, that it wasn't enough for me personally just to share clean beauty. I mean, because for example, if you bought my skincare line, Michelle, like, that's great. You're getting fewer toxins in your products, but like, I can't really say I prevented you from having breast cancer. There's no like real demonstrable result from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept searching for, what can I do that really helps women up level their health? And I found it. Actually, it was about almost a year and a half ago, I had a revelation that I wanted to be a sleep coach for women.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I decided upon this is because I had struggled with my own insomnia about 15 years ago, and I was dependent on Ambien.
Yeah.
And I eventually got off of that, and my sleep was pretty good for many years. And then the pandemic happened, and I found myself having trouble sleeping, like a lot of people did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was extremely cognizant of staying on top of it, because I knew that I have the propensity to spiral into insomnia. So I really started doing some interventions, hacks, and bought an Aura ring, which if you can see the video, you can see this on my hand. And I started posting about these insights I had about sleep and how to improve it. And people on social media were eating it up. And I was just literally sharing, there was no business involved. There was just me like, hey, I know people are struggling with their sleep. Here's what I'm doing. And people really resonated with that. So that was really what kind of propelled me to make it into a business.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, I want to be a sleep coach for women. And then I was like, okay, you want to do that, but how do you do it? It was
Yeah.
like you can't just wake up and be like, okay, so, like, let me coach you. Yeah, I had to get some training. So
Right.
I went to get a health coaching certificate. That took about a year. And then within that year, I also took some more sleep specific courses.
Mhm.
So now I'm a sleep coach for women, and I pretty much like have complete control over my work. I work when I want to.
Right.
Um, I feel very fortunate in that this whole entire breast cancer journeys, plural, I didn't have to take like official leave, or I didn't have to negotiate with any employer because I
Mhm.
worked for myself. And so I could kind of um, pull back when I needed to. And that was just really a relief
Mhm.
to be able to do that and have that flexibility. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's great. I know a lot of women, and I think even after COVID as well, women and men are taking a step back and being like, I've got to take care of myself. I'm dealing with this or dealing with that. I need to put myself first, not my job or something like that. So I commend you for doing that. I was very lucky as well. My husband and I owned our own marketing agency, still do, and he just took over the stuff for our clients. And there was never a pause in being able to take care of them. They, for the most part, didn't even know I was going through breast cancer. I didn't really say anything until after the surgery and was back at it. But I'm very grateful for that as well. But I wish that employers were more understanding of women in the workforce that are going through breast cancer, that there are some days you can't get out of bed, and there needs to be a little bit of grace for that.
Yes, absolutely.
I think so. But with the sleep coach, and guys, we will have information for Morgan in our episode notes so that you guys can check her out, because I find it fascinating as a person who struggles with sleep myself. When you work with someone like that, how long does it take with some people on average to get them to where they
Yeah.
can really start getting some good
Yeah.
sleep?
That's a great question. So I have my program is sort of a signature program. It's 8 weeks.
Hmm.
It's called My Sleep Makeover. And it's what I try to do is have 8 weekly sessions so that I can really, we can kind of fast track it if possible.
Okay.
And what I'm finding is that most women are able to resolve most, if not all of their issues within 8 weeks, because we are meeting once a week, and I offer them support through a messenger app throughout the week. So if they've got questions or concerns, we can keep the ball rolling in between visits. So, but everyone is different. So I mainly see women who have, um, who either want to optimize their sleep. Some of the women are like just average sleepers, but they really want to get a lot better. So it doesn't take them as long to get the results that they need. Women who've been struggling with insomnia for years may take, that 8 weeks, or they might need a couple of extra sessions to
Right.
really get things under control. But um, I like to, kind of work fast, but not rush, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
get that. I get that. That's well,
Yeah.
and I think that as a society, we like to see results,
Yes.
pretty quickly. But as with something as important as sleep, I think that what you're doing, trying to get them there sooner rather than later, makes absolute sense for their overall health, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for coming on. This has been truly amazing. I know when we spoke beforehand, before we started recording, I don't think it really sunk in that you actually did go through breast cancer twice. And it just, honestly, technically, probably 3 times, since they found the other lump right after they found the first one.
Right.
So, what a roller coaster for you. But I so appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking. It was really great chatting with you.
Yeah. So we'll have to have you on again sometime soon, because I would love to have an episode where we just focus on the sleep, because I think that's very important for women, especially when they're going through something as overwhelming and scary as breast cancer.
Yes, I'd love to.
I would love
Absolutely.
that. Awesome. All right, my dear. Thank you so
Thank
much. We so
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think we all can agree that sleep is super important, not only in your daily life, but it is vital in your recovery. Very big thank you to Morgan for joining us today. We have links and information where you can learn more about her and follow her work on our website at www.theboobreport.com/podcast episode 33 show notes. And a very big thank you to all of you for spending time with us today. Be sure to like and follow us, and definitely share the podcast with your friends. You can become an active listener and support this podcast by clicking on the podcast link on our website at theboobreport.com. Take care.